I moved back to Baltimore, and I wanted to take care of my mom. I wanted to look out for her and like get her some help, because I had seen her in between here and there, and it's like, I think there's a natural instinct, of course, for a child to want to be close to his mother, and you know what I'm saying, when you know your mom's going through something real like that,
You might know him for Let Me Love You, that smooth, soulful voice that had the whole world in a chokehold back in the 2000s. But behind that charm, behind the fame, the hits, and the spotlight, Mario was living through a nightmare most people couldn't imagine. We're talking about a childhood filled with trauma, a mother battling addiction, a young boy forced to grow up way too fast, stepping in to be the parent when he was barely a teenager himself. And that's just the beginning. This isn't just a story about fame, it's about survival and what it really costs to protect the people you love when the cameras stop rolling.
I've seen the person who is fearless, talented, smart, outgoing. And so when you're not seeing that person, you want to see them in their best light, So that was my whole goal of moving back to Baltimore, which ended up turning into like a lot of lessons for me, a lot of time lost, money wasted, all types of.
Behind every broken heart is usually a broken home, and for Mario, it all started with one person, his mom. Mario's story isn't just about music, it's about the kind of pain that follows you from childhood even into the spotlight. His mother, Shantia Hardaway, was everything to him. He adored her, but she was also the source of his deepest wounds. Early on, life already threw her a curveball. She was paralyzed in a car accident. But that was just the beginning. Her struggle with heroin addiction started when Mario was just a child. He remembers being about 9 years old when he realized something wasn't right. She'd disappear for long stretches. She'd be there one day and completely out of it the next. That kind of instability, it messes with a kid's head. Mario didn't grow up with a strong, consistent mother figure. Instead, he had moments, short windows, where she was clear-headed and loving, but they never lasted. And that inconsistency created a craving in him, a deep emotional hunger that he tried to fill in every relationship he had later on. He once admitted that he would look for motherly love in his girlfriends, constantly trying to recreate the bond he never really had with Shantia, but that kind of pressure, it's heavy, and it made his relationships unstable and messy. By middle school, Mario had already seen too much. His environment didn't allow him to just be a kid. He was living in Baltimore surrounded by struggle, and with his mother slipping deeper into addiction, he had to figure out how to survive. At just 13 years old, Mario started selling weed. Not to be cool, not for clout, but to have food. To feel in control of something in a life that was constantly out of control. He had no real guidance, no one to tell him what was right or wrong, just instincts and fear. He was exposed to an adult world before he even knew who he was. Crime, substances, broken systems, it was all around him. But through it all, music was one thing that kept pulling him back from the edge. He'd sing to distract himself from the chaos. He'd perform in school talent shows, local competitions, anywhere he could. That voice was the only light in a very dark tunnel.
I would say by the age of 26.
What is that?
It's really just the practice and studying of universal knowledge. We have a lot of mystics around us all the time, and we probably don't even know it. Just kind of taking myself out of this three-dimensional perception of life into a more universal understanding of things.
When Let Me Love You dropped in 2004, Mario became a star overnight. The song hit #1 and stayed there for weeks. Suddenly, he was rich, famous, and adored by millions. But behind the scenes, he was still that kid from Baltimore, still trying to save his mom. Instead of celebrating, he used his new success to try and fix the one thing that had always been broken: her. Mario put his mom in expensive rehabs. He spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to get her clean. Malibu, detox centers, private doctors, you name it, he tried it. But addiction isn't something money can fix, and no matter how hard he tried, Shantia kept relapsing. Their relationship was a constant roller coaster. He even got into public fights with her, breaking down in interviews, struggling with guilt, asking himself if he was doing enough. Fame gave Mario access access, but it didn't give him peace. If anything, it made his pain more visible. The cameras were rolling, but his heart was still breaking in private. But then came the moment that broke him. The night his own mother called the cops on him. It's one thing to grow up with pain. It's another to feel like you've done everything possible to help someone and then they turn on you. That's what happened to Mario. He came home one night and found his mother's apartment filled with people using substances. After all the money he'd spent on rehab, all the sacrifices he made, all the times he begged her to choose life over addiction, this was the moment it all crashed down. He snapped. Mario lost control and started breaking things in the house, not because he wanted to hurt anyone, but because he was overwhelmed. Years of pain, fear, and anger just came out all at once, and instead of comfort, instead of understanding, his own mother called the police on him. He was arrested that night. The charges were eventually dropped, but the damage was permanent. That kind of betrayal from someone you've tried so hard to save, it doesn't just leave a scar, it changes you. After that, something in Mario shut off. The trust was gone. The hope that maybe she'd turn her life around disappeared. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, enter the music industry.
Basically, I came home one day. It was some people in my house, and
In your house?
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
What was your mom living?
it was her place. I had two places in B-More.
Okay.
One was hers and one was mine.
Got it.
At the time.
But you were paying for both of them, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I came there, and they was there, and I got my gat. I went in there because I didn't know who the fuck they were. They was like just chilling in there and shit. Obviously, you could tell they was some street niggas. Got my shit. Like, yo, y'all gotta get the fuck out. Like, fuck, you know what I'm saying? What's going on? Woo woo. They was like, nah, we here with your mom. Like, woo woo, we know your mom. It's all good. I'm like, nah, nigga, you like get the fuck out.
Yeah.
They left. She came out of the bathroom. What are you doing? You tripping? Woo woo. Put the shit back, obviously. Came back out, and I was like, I was pissed. I was livid because we had to talk multiple times just about like, look, I understand you have your issues. If you're gonna do that, do it outside of the house. Just don't bring it here.
If the streets taught Mario survival, the music industry taught him betrayal. When he was still a teenager, Mario signed contracts he didn't fully understand. Like many young artists, he put his faith in managers, executives, thinking they had his best interest at heart. One of those people was his former manager, Troy Patterson. Years later, Mario filed a lawsuit against him, claiming that despite Let Me Love You generating over $20 million 0 cents, Mario only saw $50,000 0 cents of it. Let that sink in. He had one of the biggest songs in the country, he was touring, doing press, performing everywhere, and yet he was barely making enough to live comfortably. Everything he thought he earned was being eaten up by bad deals and shady contracts. He wasn't just fighting his own demons anymore. He was fighting to get back what was rightfully his. And that feeling of being used, of being exploited by people he trusted, it stayed with him. It made him guarded, distrustful, tired of the game. Fame didn't mean freedom. It meant more people trying to eat off his plate. In 2017, the one person who had been both his greatest love and deepest source of pain, his mother, passed away at just 49 years old. Mario had spent so many years fighting for her, hoping for a different ending. And when that call came, it crushed him. All the anger, all the disappointment, none of it mattered in that moment because now she was gone. At her funeral, Mario broke down completely. As her casket was lowered into the ground, he sobbed like the little boy inside him never stopped needing her. But that moment also opened something inside of him. For the first time, he had to face all the feelings he'd kept buried. The pain, the guilt, the sadness. He had to let it out. And through that grief, something shifted. He began searching for deeper meaning. He started tapping into a more spiritual part of himself. Not religion necessarily, but something that helped him feel connected again.
After that, we were distant for a while. Of course, I spoke to her. Not a lot changed as far as our relationship. I just ended up moving. I left. I moved out here for a couple years to LA. It was my first time leaving B-More in a while, but it was a great change for me. It was the best thing I could have done for myself.
When you grow up without stable love, you start searching for it everywhere. And Mario was no different. He's been honest about how his childhood trauma shaped how he viewed relationships. For a long time, he couldn't commit, not because he didn't want love, but because he didn't know how to hold on to it. He'd use intimacy as a way to feel connection, temporary relief for a deeper emotional wound. In his own words, he admits he used women to fill the hole left by his mom's absence. That constant need to feel needed, it drove him into situations that weren't always healthy. He wasn't ready to be vulnerable because real vulnerability scared him. It reminded him of what he lost growing up. But now he's in a place of reflection. He understands that his past doesn't excuse the way he moved, but it explains it. And for Mario, that awareness was the first step toward healing the way he shows up in love. But through all the chaos, one thing kept him grounded: his music. Even when he was just a kid trying to survive the streets of Baltimore, music gave him an escape. But as he got older, it became more than just a dream. It became therapy. After his mom passed and the lawsuits piled up, he turned inward. He started meditating. He started doing the work, real inner work, not just the surface level stuff. He began using his music to speak the truth, to process pain, to share the kind of raw emotion he once kept bottled up. Songs like Drowning and Pain is the New Sexy aren't just tracks, they're confessions. They're him showing us the mess and the healing at the same time. Now, Mario's not just singing about love, he's using his voice to talk about mental health, addiction, and what healing actually looks like. He's gone from being a product of trauma to becoming an advocate for growth. And just when we thought Mario was done with drama, the Versus battle with Omarion lit the internet on fire. Mario came in confident and sharp, hitting every note like his life depended on it. Meanwhile, Omarion's set? Well, it didn't go as planned. After the show, Omarion accused Mario's team of sabotaging his mic, but Mario wasn't having it. He clapped back on Instagram with a savage story, basically saying, "Don't blame your performance on my team, just take the L." The internet loved it. People weren't just talking about the music, they were talking about how unbothered and in control Mario seemed. It was like everything he'd gone through had prepared him for that moment. So next time you hear Mario singing "Let Me Love You," just know you're listening to someone who's lived through heartbreak, betrayal, and survival. And now, he's finally telling his story. Did you ever expect this side of Mario? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like, subscribe, and hit that bell if you want more real stories behind the fame.